Even if you don't know all the details, you know the name. He wasn't a king. He was a conqueror, a visionary, and the kind of leader who didn't believe in limits. By the time most people are still figuring out their lives, Alexander had already changed the world map forever. But he didn't just wake up one day and decide to be great. The fire started early, way back in ancient Macedonia. Alexander the Great was born on July 356 BC in Pella, son of Philip II, who was already a known ruler, and his mother Olympias. When Alexander was born, Philip was preparing a siege on Potida. He also got news that his general Ian defeated the Illyrian and Pomanian armies, and that his horse won at the Olympic Games. It was also said one of the 7 wonders of the world burned down. All these events happening on Alexander's birth showed he was destined for greatness. In Alexander's early years, he was raised to read, play the lyre, ride, fight, and hunt. By childhood, he was tutored by Leonidas. When he was 10 years old, a trader brought Philip a horse to buy. At first, the horse refused to be mounted. Alexander later tamed the horse after a few tries. His father bought the horse and named it Bucephalus. Bucephalus would carry Alexander all over his conquests during his lifetime. By 13, Alexander was being taught by Aristotle. He'd be taught at the temple of Nymphs at Mysa. Alexander learned about medicine, philosophy, morals, religion, logic, and art. He would develop a passion for the works of Homer. He was also able to quote Euripides from memory. At age 16, he stopped being tutored by Aristotle. Philip waged war in the north against the Thracians. With Philip gone, Alexander was the regent. A revolt started in Macedonia by the Thracian tribe. Alexander took over their territory and named the city Alexandropolis. When Philip returned, Alexander had to shut down the revolts in southern Thrace. After this, he went to southern Greece with his army. He tricked the Illyrians into thinking they were going to be attacked. When they came to Macedonia, Alexander clobbered them. In 338 BC, Philip of Macedon joined his son and marched south, capturing Thermopylae and occupying Elatea, near Athens and Thebes. In response, led by the Macedonians, sought an alliance with Thebes against Macedonia. Both sides sent embassies to Thebes, but Athens secured the alliance. Philip then captured the Amphisia and returned to Elatea, offering peace to Athens and Thebes, which they both rejected. When Philip marched south, he was blocked at Chaeronea, Boeotia. During the battle at Chaeronea, Philip had control of the right side and Alexander had the left. Both sides fought each other hard. Philip retreated, letting the Athenians go through. Alexander broke through their line and took over with Philip. They overpowered them and defeated the Athenians and Thebans. After the victory, they marched to Peloponnese. When they got to Corinth, Philip established a Hellenistic alliance, which included most Greek states. He was named Hegemon, which means supreme leader. Then he announced his plans to attack the Persian Empire. When Philip returned to Pella, he fell in love with Cleopatra Eurydice. By 337, Alexander left Macedon and went to Illyria to seek refuge. Alexander felt disowned by his father, but returned after 6 months after mediation. Later that year, Pixodorus offers his daughter to Alexander's half-brother, Philip Arrhidaeus. Alexander thought that Philip wanted to make his brother their heir, so he sent someone to tell Pixodorus to have his daughter marry him, not his brother. When Philip heard of this, he stopped negotiations and scolded his son. By October 336, King Philip was assassinated during his daughter's wedding. He was killed by his bodyguard and former lover, Pausanias. He was later killed trying to escape. After this, Alexander became king at the age of 20. Alexander started going after people who rivaled his throne. He executed his cousin, Amytas, and 2 princes involved in his father's assassination, but he spared a third. His mother Olympias had Philip's wife, Cleopatra Eurydice, and her daughter killed. He also had Attalus, Cleopatra's uncle, and a military leader executed. Revolt started after Philip's death in Therbans, Athens, Thessaly, and the Thracian tribes. Alexander heard of the revolts and took 3,000 soldiers to Thessaly. The Thessalians quickly surrendered to him. Then he continued south to Peloponnese. He made a quick stop at Thermopylae before going to Corinth. At Corinth, Alexander took the title as leader. He was getting ready for his war against the Persians. Before starting his war, Alexander wanted to secure his northern defense. In spring of 335 BC, he shut down several revolts. He started with the Thracians first. He defeated them near the Liganus River. Alexander then went up against the Getae tribe. Crossing the river at night, he surprised them and forced their army out. The news started that the Illyrian chiefs, Cletus and King Glaucius, were against him. Going west into Illyrian, he defeated them one by one, making them run with their troops. After these wins, he finally secured his northern borders, while Alexander went north. The Thebans and the Athenians rebelled again. Alexander went south again to fight the Thebans. They didn't stand a chance and lost to Alexander. Then the territory got divided into pieces once again. After this, Alexander started his Asian campaign. In 334 BC, Alexander made it to Hellespont with his army. He was eager to take down the Persian Empire, and after a victory at the Battle of Granicus, Sardis surrendered to him. In Caria, he had his first large-scale siege. His enemies left withdrawing at sea. His plan was to take over the coastal cities to deny the Persians naval bases. In spring 330 BC, Alexander crossed Taurus into Cilicia. Then he marched into Syria, where he met Darius' larger army, so he marched back to Cilicia. He battled Darius at Isius, where Darius fled the battle and left behind his daughter, wife, and mother. Darius offered a peace treaty, but Alexander declined, saying since he is now Asia's king, he gets to decide territorial divisions. He took Syria and Levant with him. When Alexander made his way toward Egypt, he destroyed the city of Tyre. He was met with resistance when he got to Gaza. They fortified the hill, making it difficult, which made Alexander determined to fight even harder. After a few attempts, they broke through, which he received a shoulder wound. He had all the men killed and put the women and children into slavery. Egypt was one of the territories taken by the Persians. In Egypt, Alexander was crowned as pharaoh. He restored temples neglected by the Persians and built new monuments. They thought of Alexander as a liberator to the Persians. He also pronounced the son of the deity Ammon by the oracle of Siwa. He was also referred to Ammon as his true father. While in Egypt, he founded Alexandria, which is still a city known today. He left Egypt in 331 BC. Alexander marched eastward into northern Iraq and defeated Darius at the Battle of Gumagala. Alexander chased after him but couldn't reach him. Later, he would take over Babylon. Alexander then made some stops to Susa to take over the treasury, and to the Persian gates, where his troops looted the city for days. A fire started that destroyed the city. Alexander then chased Darius into Medina and then Parthia. Darius was taken prisoner by Bessius and stabbed to death. Bessius then declared himself king and decided to fight Alexander. With Darius gone, Alexander had to get rid of Bessius. 329 BC, Spitamanes betrayed Bessius to Alexander's general Ptolemy, leading to Bessius' execution. Later, while Alexander was occupied fighting nomadic tribes near the Jaxartes River, Spitamenes led a revolt in Sogdiana. After defeating the nomads at the Battle of Jaxartes, Alexander turned his forces against Spitamenes and defeated him at the Battle of Gabai. Following this loss, Spitamenes was killed by his own men, who then sought peace with Alexander. Macedon enjoyed peace and prosperity while Alexander was gone. Alexander sent money back, which helped the economy increase trades, but with troops being called into battle, this weakened Macedon's strength. After he defeated the Persian Empire, he went to India. He asked the rulers to submit to his authority. Some did, and he gave them wealth and presents. Others didn't accept him. Taxiles, Indian ruler, aligned with Alexander the Great during his campaign in India. He provided 5,000 troops and fought alongside Alexander at the Battle of Hydaspes. After the victory, Alexander sent Taxiles to offer peace to Porus. Porus nearly killed him. Alexander later reconciled the two. Taxiles helped prepare Alexander's fleet and was giving governance over the territory between Hydaspes and this river. His power increased after the death of Philip, and he retained authority even after Alexander's death and the partition at Triparadisus in 321 BC. In 327-326 BC, Alexander launched a winter campaign against the Aspanoi, Koreans, and Askanoi tribes in present-day northern Pakistan. He was wounded in battles against the Aspanoi and Masaga, where he later massacred the population and destroyed the city. A similar fate befell Ora. Survivors fled to the stronghold of Oruanos, which Alexander captured after a bloody 4-day siege. After defeating the stronghold of Oruanos, Alexander the Great crossed the Indus River and fought the Battle of the Hydaspes and Asinus rivers in Punjab. Impressed by Porus' bravery, Alexander made him an ally, appointed him satrap, and expanded his territory up to that Hephaestus. To solidify control over these distant lands, Alexander relied on local rulers. He also founded 2 cities near the Hydaspes, Pasiphala in honor of his horse, Pasiphilus, and Nicaea, likely at present-day Mong. According to philosophers, a heroic elephant in Porus' army so impressed Alexander that he dedicated it to the sun god Helios, naming it Ajax, and inscribing its gold tusk rings with a Greek dedication. Alexander's army refused to go further at Hydaspes River. Alexander tried to persuade them to go farther, but his general changed his mind. To repay his soldiers, he paid off their debt and announced he would send the overaged back to Macedon. His troops misunderstood what he said, and they mutinied. After failing to persuade his troops to accept the Persians into the army, Alexander gave Persians command roles and military titles, prompting the Macedonians to beg forgiveness. He accepted and held a large banquet. To promote unity, he organized a mass marriage between his officers and Persian noblemen, though most of these marriages are short-lived. On returning to Persia, Alexander found that Cyrus the Great's tomb had been desecrated. He executed the guards responsible, as he deeply admired Cyrus. Having studied his life, Alexander had the tomb restored by his architect. Later in Ecbatana, Alexander's close friend Hephaestion, likely from illness or poisoning, devastated Alexander, arranged an elaborate funeral and declared public mourning. He then returned to Babylon and began planning a new campaign to invade Arabia. On June 323 BC, Alexander died in Babylon. Some say he was poisoned, while others say he had malaria or typhoid fever. After his death, he was laid in a gold sarcophagus. His body was then transferred to Alexandria, where his tomb would be a tourist attraction. Caesar, Augustus, and Pompey would visit his tomb. Eventually, his tomb would be lost to history, but his legacy would live on, as he would change the world forever. His campaigns would help trade throughout the East and the West. Greek influence would spread more throughout the world. Some cities he founded would survive the 21st century, like Alexandria, and everybody would know his name 2,000 years later, Alexander the Great.